As 2019 draws to a close, we get down to our time-honored practice of summing up the decade that was. But how can all the experiences of the past 120 months be documented aptly? How does one sum up 3,652 days? With monikers, perhaps. Decade of disruptions, age of upheaval, the era of populism. Or perhaps we can look at the common thread linking all this. Social media was one of the biggest influences on how the decade shaped up. What began in the decade before as cutting-edge technology that promised to revolutionize the way one connected, bringing communities closer, discover new things, level the playing field, give a platform to put forward one's ideas. It was optimistic, almost giddy with joy at having found a way to connect millions, provided they had internet access. It did all of that, but 10 years of scrolling, thumbs-upping, swiping, double-tapping, and terabytes of text and images, and then a whole lot more, not always in the best interest of humankind. At the end of the first year of this decade, 2010, Time magazine named Facebook's founder, Mark Zuckerberg, as the person of the year. Zuckerberg's brainchild had just connected 1 out of every dozen people on the planet through this platform. It was declared the Facebook age. And in a way, it was. 2010 was ending on a note of hope for a whole region. A series of anti-regime, anti-corruption people's movements swept the Arab nations. People came out on the streets and demanded change. And for the first time in the history of collective activism across the world, internet-based technologies played a central role in shaping political debates. Social media platforms like Facebook allowed many to circumvent the state-controlled media to disperse news and organize protests. It also helped the movement swiftly spread from Tunisia to other nations in the region. Just months later, social media platforms helped another movement take off, this time in India. The India Against Corruption movement saw a well-coordinated media plan, mobilizing citizens into action. And the media wasn't just limited to the traditional outlets. Facebook alone saw more than 150 pages dedicated to the movement and its leaders. For a country which till 2011 had just over 100 million internet users, a whole new world opened up. Social media platforms that started off as technology that helped you reconnect with your old school gang or helped someone else find more about their neighbor's lifestyle soon blossomed into networks that heralded socio-political change.
Our lives are connected. And whether we're welcoming a refugee fleeing war or an immigrant seeking new opportunity, whether we're coming together to fight global disease like Ebola or to address climate change, I hope that we have the courage to see that the path forward is to bring people together, not push people apart, to connect more.
Over the years, social media revitalized public debate, bringing people together when they agreed on something or disagreed with something. But social media through the decade was definitely not just about social activism. No, sir. The various platforms added a plethora of terms to the dominant vocabulary. For example, before these platforms arrived, it were only birds that tweeted. And who knew what hashtags even meant? And although self-portraits weren't a new concept to humankind, social media took it to another level of narcissistic expression. It also introduced us to the world of the ridiculous. Things you never thought you needed to read or see. But once you clicked on it, you couldn't stop. Watching cats chase a laser light, compilation of cakes being cut the incorrect way, raging debates about the color of a dress, or maybe just a well-lit shot of an egg. Viral was no longer just a strain of influenza going around. It was also a visual image now. And when there was this much data being consumed, someone had to keep writing, shooting, or creating more content. And so was born a new job, that of the social media content creator, the one who knew everything, the one who knew what you would like. And the network grew, bringing more people in, churning more data out. Two things contributed to the growth of the network itself: the easy availability of smartphones and access to mobile internet. Today, the world has around 4.5 billion internet users. Of these, nearly 700 million are from India. The Android boom witnessed in India is almost unmatched. The operating system powers almost 94% of phones in India today. And while Facebook remains the most popular social media across the world with a whopping 2.41 billion active monthly users, there are others who rule large sections of the social media pie. The last 10 years saw video sharing platform YouTube grow into the second largest social network, followed by a host of pure messaging applications like WhatsApp and WeChat, both of which connect over 1 billion users each. Instagram, which was launched in 2010, also boasts of 1 billion active users. Starting off with this photograph. Instagram launched as a photo sharing network. Today, however, it influences more than just one's choice of photo filter. From fashion, food, travel, celebrities, lifestyle, to news and politics. Instagram redefined social media. It was a more visual, all about capturing the best of an instant. And if one didn't have a moment worth capturing, social media even had a word for your feeling: FOMO, fear of missing out. Other platforms like Vine, Snapchat, and much later TikTok focused on shorter videos. Snapchat's USP of making videos disappear after a limited time pushed it up the popularity chart. TikTok, on the other hand, stays. It helped users make small videos featuring some background music. The pool of content is enormous, and its immense popularity in countries like India have even backfired at times. The other social media platform which saw exponential growth till the early 2010s was Twitter, where you followed or were followed by someone and shared each other's news and views, albeit all limited to 140 sacrosanct characters at a time. The application saw public debate across the world increase and intensify. Political and geographical boundaries ceased to matter, making the world flatter. But all these apps were mostly there by the time the decade began. What changed over the last 10 years was how algorithms running these platforms changed the world. Remember the content creators we spoke about, who knew what you want before you want it? Well, they did that because data from your consumption patterns helped predict what you want in the future. That's what algorithms do, to put it simply. Now imagine the treasure trove of knowledge the platforms had on each user. That data, when consolidated and coupled with artificial intelligence, which can predict patterns and trends, revealed more about you than you knew. This is what led Facebook and Instagram game your news feeds according to what you like to consume more. This data of your likes is also what helped social media entrepreneurship take off. Applications like Uber and Tinder gained massive following because of social media promotions and how easily and aptly it predicted your next destination or a potential partner. In fact, algorithmic recommendations are now a big part of the social media experience. forgotten social life became social media first. Hashtags broke the silence on sexual harassment, gave a war cry against discrimination, scaled up demands for action over climate change, and saw millions express their disagreement over policy failures. Social media wasn't just used to organize rallies anymore. The protests flared up online before hitting the streets. Sounds like technology was harnessed for a whole lot of good, right? Well, here is where the glitch took place. Manipulation of public opinion, amplification of polarization took over platforms. Facebook and Twitter, two platforms that dealt mostly in text, now shared a barrage of texts, ideas, facts, and news. Some true, others not so much. Fake news and propaganda could easily be passed around at lightning speed without a check, and it was consumed in large volumes. Algorithms designed to encourage posts which generated maximum interactions now pushed questionable alternate facts because they garnered views and reactions from those who agreed and those who didn't. And human nature to react at times without reflection kicked in. The anonymity of the internet helped. Where this glitch reflected the most was in the advent of right-wing populism sweeping across the world. Extremism and revolts became the norm. For the first time in world politics, ideological battles were being fought on internet-based networking systems. Gone were the days when social media was heralding democracy in Arab nations. By 2018, there was proof that it was undermining it.
Those 87 million, which he confirmed, that personal data was sent into hands that he said they were lied to by Cambridge Analytica.
The Cambridge Analytica scandal revealed how Facebook data from millions were used to target and wage a war of misinformation on US electorate in the build-up to the 2016 presidential election. Cambridge Analytica, a political consulting firm employed by the Trump campaign, micro-targeted and influenced its core supporters with ads that escaped due scrutiny. In another Western democracy, social media alternate facts and targeted ads successfully shaped a referendum campaign. In what is now widely accepted as a misinformation, the pro-Brexit campaign advertisement hinged on this line. Research showed simple messaging and an overwhelmingly negative attack won the online perception battle. Closer home, India witnessed an aggressive social media campaign in its 2019 general elections. A significant portion of the social media ads were from one party, the ruling BJP. Adding to the online mix was a bombardment of fake news, inflammatory content, and troll armies shouting down those who disagreed. But the concept wasn't new to 2019. Harnessing social media, data, and technology smartly to activate its core base was a well-honed game plan of the Bharatiya Janata Party and its leader, Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Never before had India seen a political leader so popular on ground as well as online. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram all have hundreds of dedicated fan pages for the leader. From promoting government schemes to attacking the opposition to disseminating news, social media platforms were the preferred mouthpiece. And right from the early days of his first term, Prime Minister Modi and his team perfected delivering tailored messages on social media targeting specific groups. The party used its own data, social media data, government data to analyze and strategize its politicking. Political analysts across the board attribute Modi and his team for changing the way politics in India will be played out in the next decade. And one of the biggest game changers was the deft use of Facebook, WhatsApp, and Twitter.
Social media has played a role of creating what I call the surround sound in an election, almost like an echo chamber. A politician says something, how do I amplify the message? particularly for the millennials, for the younger Indians, those between the age of 18 and 30 who may be on Twitter and Facebook creating special Facebook pages. So you're trying to create new younger communities of voters and using social media to build those communities in support of the BJP, friends of BJP on Facebook or friends of Rahul Gandhi on Facebook. You're trying to create communities of people, like-minded people, who you hope will amplify your message.
The quick and almost free access to 4G internet in the second half of the decade introduced social media to the Indian masses. Tech experts also believe Facebook-owned WhatsApp was a big driver for rapid internet adoption. By the time 2019 elections came about, public debate about the merits of a party had shifted from a physical space to the realm of social media. Election rallies still mattered in India, but even those were being boosted by online forums. Politics wasn't the only thing riling people up on the net. Opinions about movies or even one's gender or religion was enough to catch the trolls' attention.
When I first started using Twitter, back in 2011-12, so I used to engage with people. Maybe I could change my opinions, if someone was bringing out some positive point. But now that's not possible anymore. I really can't, all the appreciation that I get, all the positive comments that I get, those are just drowned out by abuse. So, I really can't engage with my followers. That's a pity because it has made the whole platform very irrelevant.
It wasn't just happening in India. The 2016 Trump campaign in the US witnessed raging debates about external interference. The spotlight had finally shifted to unchecked political advertisements on social media.
Democracy, which depends on shared truths, is in retreat, and autocracy, which depends on shared lies, is on the march. Hate crimes are surging, as are murderous attacks on religious and ethnic minorities. Now, what do all these dangerous trends have in common? I'm just a comedian and an actor, I'm not a scholar, but one thing is pretty clear to me. All this hate and violence is being facilitated by a handful of internet companies that amount to the greatest propaganda machine in history.
While political analysts studied whether social media apps were gaming democracy, stagnant wages, corruption, job loss, and immigration was changing the political narrative. Public debate on a more democratic platform is an egalitarian concept, something the world was promised with the internet. Instead, the last 10 years saw the internet-based social networking platforms reveal glaring faults in the system. Increasingly polarized public debate, rampant fake news with little technological checks to weed out the misinformation, lack of data privacy, authorities targeting dissent online, the hate and trolling that proliferates almost each of these platforms has often left its users at the edge of a slippery slope. While the internet bestowed more power to the voiceless, governments and authorities reminded time and again that the power can be shut down. Internet blockades to stop dissent and halt ground forces from galvanizing is the latest tool to quell protests. And nowhere was this method implemented more than in India. In 2018, 67% of the world's documented internet shutdowns took place in India. This year, a communication blockade came into force in Jammu and Kashmir as the union government revoked the region's special status and subsequently bifurcated the state. Later, as state after state witnessed massive protests against the new Citizenship Amendment Act, the government once again shut down the internet where and when it felt the need. Dissent was also targeted by the authorities online. Political parties across the spectrum came down hard on people with a different opinion on social media. While the platforms themselves came up with tools to report violence and hate, implementation was controversial. Although certain accounts propagating violence were taken down, but so were accounts of lawyers and social activists. While some asked for the platforms to be held liable for the inflammatory content shared by its users, Facebook's founder refused to verify information his platform circulates. Zuckerberg maintained it is not for private companies to censor politicians or the news. He maintained Facebook was not the publisher. Rather, it just allows its users to publish whatever they want. Twitter, on the other hand, announced in 2019 that it will no longer feature political advertisements. So this is how we communicate now. And if there is one thing that the past decade has proved beyond doubt, then it is that social media is here to stay a while. Social media is a reality that will shape our polity, will mold our society, and guide our individual consumption choices, at least in the foreseeable future. And then it is also a fact that these online social networking platforms have all but eliminated other, more physical platforms of being social. For good or for bad, the measure of the human experience is now judged by an individual's social media standing. So here is wishing each and every one of you that in the times to come, may your followers multiply. May your posts be reposted exponentially, and may all of your posts be liked. But most importantly, may your DP forever remain young.